Hello, and welcome to Sailing Hawkeye.
Cut it out!
Today I'm going to be working on this bad boy here. I've been working on it the last couple of weeks now in the afternoons, and I'm building a pressure washer powered sandblaster. I'm actually near the finishing stage of it and I've trialled it out already, but I'll go through the video process with you shortly and show you just how I made it. I've got a few more things to finish off on it. I want to build a cone here so that it's easier to load the sand in. I want to build an automatic dropper in there so that basically I just let a spring go and the sand drops inside, but I want to wash it at the same time that I put it in. I'm using wet sand rather than dry sand. It's had its trials and tribulations, mainly with rocks, so I've just got to stop the big stuff from getting in there, so that's my aim for today. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the build, and we'll go from here. Now this here is a drawing of what I'm trying to get. So this is actually a section cutout, so it's as if I cut through that ring and I'm looking side on, the ring that's in the top of the tank. So what I want to do is I want to weld some guides on here. This is the plate that I'm actually holding in my hand. I want to weld some guides on here. I'll actually stand up like this, but if you look at the drawing, I want to weld these guides on. So when I lift it up, when it gets lifted up by that chain, it automatically centers itself inside on that ring. So I don't have to do anything, I don't have to mess around with it. Anyway, it's a bit of a work in progress, so we'll see how we go. So those 4 marks that I've put on there now, I just traced around the inside of that ring, held the plate up on the inside of the tank, traced around that ring. So what I'm going to do now is weld some flat bars up here at each of those points, and I'll put them back at a bit of an angle so that as it draws up into the slot, it'll basically hold in the right spot. You can see how this works at the moment. It's down, going to let sand in, pulls up into the sand. So I just welded those guides in. So that way if the chain gets a little bit twisted or something bumps it, it'll still pull up. I'm using a bit of Trepelec to help cut these holes. It's nowhere near as good as the old stuff, but it does the job. I'm just going to bolt this together. I'll put a washer in between it, give it a bit of space, narrow one. Have it, there's my tension for the filling. So basically I'll just clip that under there. Pulls tension down on this spring. So you get the idea. So as I want to fill it up with sand, I'll just take this off down here. That drops down and we're away, we can fill with sand. I didn't show you this process, but what I've done is I've made up some cardboard templates. Anyway, you get the idea. So they go around here. And there's a little hopper. There's 4 sides to it, of course. The other one's in the hand. I'm just going to trace these out onto a piece of stainless, and then I'll build that section, and then go and get a bit of filter, a bit of screen rather. You can see there I've traced these out onto this piece of stainless steel. I'm just going to go through now and trim them up. Once I trim them up, I'll tack them into place. My next investment is a plasma cutter. This is have to be the most inefficient way of cutting out a piece of stainless steel. Now let's fizz this baby together. This is what I've made. My little funnel. Just fits up nicely over the top there. I'm not going to fully weld that, I'm just going to tack it down just in case I need to remove it at some point. What I've also done is I've made my screens up. So now this is what's called wedge wire. So in the top there's a 3mm hole, and then when you look at the side profile you can see that it's wider at the top than at the bottom. That's why they call it wedge wire. Pretty good gear. So basically if a rock comes in here and it's under 3mm thick, it won't get caught up on the way through because of the shape of it. It'll be allowed to fall through. Righto, there you have it. So nice wedge wire. The sand will come onto here. I'll wash it through with a bit of water. This hole here, that's for a tube where the chain's going to come up. So I'll finish the tube about probably that high. I'll weld it to one side so that I can just pull it off, and then I'll leave it unwelded on this side so I can put the lid in, then fit all the chain in. Oh yeah, anyway. There's my gasket. Just a piece of 6mm insertion rubber. Perfect enough for what this thing needs. There you are. There you go, you get the idea about how that chain works now. So when I fill this up with sand, it's going to stop it from, when I fill it up with sand, it's going to stop it from going down into there, so I'm not going to get any large pieces of crap in there. And it still allows it to operate. Just going to do a little tweak to it. I'm just going to put this 1-inch nipple up in the top of the tank here. Reason for that is when I was filling it up with sand, I could only get the sand to about this level where this fitting is. So what I want to try and do is get the sand up to that level. So the sand had only filled to there. I couldn't get it any higher because that's the only spot I could let the water escape from. Other than that, I was just losing sand and water at the same time. So I'm just going to put this up here, and then another tweak that I'm going to do is right down the very bottom. I'm going to put an extension on where the water actually goes through past the 1-inch valve. So hopefully as the sand hits the water stream, it goes from there and not quite before it. Anyway, we'll see how we go. I just ground the galvanised coating off that so that I don't get any porosity when I weld it, because this was galvanised, this fitting. What I'm going to do now is just silver solder a piece of tube in there just to give that a bit of extra length. Just got to give this tube a bit of a sand up so that the solder and flux will stick to it. And then do the same inside there. just going to fill it up with sand using this valve now. So basically put the sand in the top and then wash it in. Water will come out of there, and then after a period of time, when it fills up with enough water, you'll start to see sand come out, and that's the point where it's full. I'll shut that valve then, and then I know I've got sand up to here. All those mods that I've done, that worked out pretty well, except for right at the very end where a mate of mine showed up and I left the camera rolling and filled up the memory card. I didn't want to delete any of the footage of me filling up the Sandblaster, so I I didn't bother deleting anything off there. He was there for a while and we had a pretty good chat, so filled the card up completely. So the new filler attachment I've put out the top worked perfect. Once the sand got up to that level with the water, the two of them flowed out together, which meant that I had, because the sand's heavier than water, it was in the bottom, water was flowing off the top, and I had a level of sand right up the very top of the tank. Absolutely perfect. The new valve that I made up the bottom, with the extension piece on it, so as the sand comes out, the feed water comes through and pushes just past where the 1-inch valve is, and it picks up that sand. That worked perfect. I can now regulate my feed water rate with the valve on the top of the tank to get the sand consistency right out the end of the hose. And the best thing is I just changed all the hose to 10 meters of 1/2-inch hose and put a ball valve right at the very end, just before it enters the nozzle, and I can turn that on and off. And when I turn it off, the sand and water stops completely coming out the end of the nozzle. When I turn it on again, the flow resumes and away it goes. So I'm pretty happy with that result. I wasn't quite expecting that. I thought I was going to get blockages and all sorts of carry on. Yeah, really good. My next step from here is to put larger sand in it. The sand that I'm using is very, very fine, and it would clean the steel quite well, but I think if I use a larger steel if I use a larger sand, as the sand hits the surface, it'll shatter and it'll probably have more of an impact, creating a little bit bigger crater for the paint material to bond to. The other thing I'm also going to do is put a tiny little bit of inhibitor in the water, just to see if I can stop the flash rusting. I've got to find one that's biodegradable though. That's going to be the hard part. Other than that, everything else went pretty well with it. Yeah, so we'll see what happens with the when I can get hold of some larger sand, which won't be for a couple of weeks. But I've still got a couple of other projects to carry on with between now and then anyway, so it's all good. Alright guys, thanks very much for watching, and I hope you got something out of it. Cheers.